and grace for every day. Through your word, our hearts will see the Lord of hope. Let's go! Oh, 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 oh. We're alive in what you say. Let your truth light up the way. Let's go!
We live in an era where even our downtime feels like work. Modern hustle culture dictates that every second must be optimized, leaving us exhausted and turning our attempts to rest into another demanding metric of performance. This contemporary cycle of exhaustion mirrors an ancient problem. In the first century, religious performance operated as the ultimate measure of human value. The Sabbath, meaning to rest, was designed as a profound gift, the ultimate sign of the covenant, meant purely for human restoration. Over time, anxiety warped that gift. Leaders constructed a complex web of hundreds of man-made don'ts around this core concept of rest. For the average person, this meant navigating a minefield of regulations. What the Creator intended as a day of peace devolved into a weekly source of intense legalistic stress. In Matthew 12, Jesus launches a deliberate campaign to dismantle this entire legalistic framework, reclaiming the original definition of rest for humanity. The conflict starts in a wheat field. When Jesus' disciples pick grain to satisfy their hunger, the Pharisees immediately categorize this basic survival need as an illegal labor violation. The tension moves into the synagogue. Jesus encounters a man with a shriveled hand on the Sabbath, creating a direct confrontation between policy and suffering. He poses a simple, devastating question. If a sheep falls into a pit on the Sabbath, who among them wouldn't take hold of it and lift it out? By healing the man, Jesus proves his thesis: doing good is always lawful. He goes further, calling himself something greater than the temple and the Lord of the Sabbath. In the ancient Jewish world, the temple was the absolute center of the universe. Claiming authority over the Sabbath meant claiming the specific authority of the God who gave the law at Mount Sinai. It was an act of theological war. Jesus draws a sharp dividing line here. The kingdom of heaven operates on lice and restoration, while human legalism leads only to death and judgment. The religious temperature in Matthew 12 quickly reaches a boiling point. The Pharisees cross a threshold, transitioning from critics of Jesus' methods to active conspirators plotting his destruction. After Jesus heals a demon-possessed man, they launch their darkest accusation. They claim he draws his power from Beelzebul, a derisive, mocking term for the prince of demons. Jesus dismantles this logic immediately. He points out that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Satan casting out Satan would guarantee the collapse of his own kingdom. This leads to his warning about the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. This is not an accidental slip of the tongue. It is the deliberate, persistent choice to stare directly at the light of the world and call it darkness. When asked to prove himself with a sign, Jesus points to the future. He offers the sign of Jonah, foreshadowing that the Son of Man will spend 3 days in the earth. The chilling reality of this chapter is that two different groups witness the exact same miracles. One group sees a man restored and finds a king who values mercy over code. The other sees the same healing and finds a reason to kill, based entirely on the posture of their hearts. Jesus then shifts the focus from external societal rules to the internal condition of the individual, using the metaphor of an empty house. He describes an impure spirit leaving a person, only to return and find the house swept clean and put in order. He warns that merely stopping bad behavior is deeply insufficient. If that clean life remains a void, devoid of God's presence, the old destructive habits, or even darker legalistic ones, will return with 7 times the force. True spiritual security comes from filling the space. We have to replace the emptiness with the active presence of Christ. The Pharisees acted as religious monitors, lurking in wheat fields specifically to catch a public figure in a minor technical infraction. We see that same impulse in modern cancel culture, where we hunt for a single mistake to invalidate an entire person. The challenge this week is to identify one specific area where you can choose kindness over a rigid policy. We must value the person more than the program. We also need to fill our own empty houses. Instead of just trying to quit an anxiety-driven habit, replace it with a tangible, kingdom-focused action like prayer or service. Jesus concludes Matthew 12 by redefining his true family. It is not determined by bloodlines or flawless rule following, but by those who do the will of his Father. He invites us to lay down the pressure to perform and find actual rest in his grace.
This truth into your day. Let his light